All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is October 2nd, 2020. This is a special meeting of the members of the State Liquor Authority. Present today are Chairman Bradley, who is in the Albany office, Commissioner Fan and Commissioner Ford, who are both appearing remotely and can be seen on the video. We also have General Counsel Meyerhoff participating by video, Deputy Commissioner of Licensing Roberts on the phone.
Present.
Okay, and myself, Secretary Downey, also in the Albany offices. We have two items on this calendar. They both requests from Council's office for summary orders of suspension. The first item is 133400 Seneca SL 3150332. Licensee is Seneca Lake Water Rental and Tours, LLC.
Good morning, everyone. Jamie Gallagher appearing on behalf of the authority. This premises is licensed as a bar tavern in Waterloo, New York. The license was initially issued August 4th of 2011, and the current license expires November 30th of 2020. It's a summer liquor license, so it's seasonal. The premises has no disciplinary history. On September 26th of 2020, Investigator Monroe visited the premises in an undisclosed capacity. When he arrived, he estimates approximately 60 people were at the premises between the bar, which is a gazebo-like structure that you can enter that has a bar in the center of it. It's open on all four sides. It has a fixed roof. That is the structure that is described in the license application, the building. So 60 persons between that area and the outdoor unroofed licensed area that's got picnic tables and is surrounded by ropes and stanchions. And it should be noted that in the records of the authority, the premises capacity is listed as 50 persons for all designated licensed areas. So they're over capacity. Over regular capacity and well over the 50% permitted. Investigator Monroe's initial observation was that there were 12 patrons standing at the interior gazebo bar. Several of these were standing without masks and consuming beverages, and others were placing drink orders. Later during his visit, he observed even more unmasked patrons congregated in this indoor area, this gazebo area, and he did photograph that scene. He did not get a photograph of the initial 12 patrons that he observed. From the bar, he was able to purchase 1 can of beer from an unmasked female bartender. He was not required to order food with the purchase, nor was he served any food. Also behind the bar was the owner, who was unmasked. Now, the bartender had her mask pulled down, but the owner didn't have a mask on him at all. The picnic area was full of patrons. Patrons in this area were moving around from table to table, to the restroom, and to the bar area without proper face coverings and ignoring social distancing guidelines. So that you had more than 10 seated at tables. You had people congregating, socializing, and moving around. And during this time, and in this area, BCI Monroe indicates he observed at least 10 patrons standing and consuming beverages while moving around the premises. The premises is being charged with Executive Order 20238, Executive Order 20252, Executive Order 20216, and Executive Order 20243, failure to comply with all of those, as well as failure to supervise. This premises is located 10 minutes from Hobart College. Almost all of the patrons in the establishment were college age. It should be noted that the investigator indicated he overheard the patrons talking about Hobart College. And also, one of their other hangouts was summarily suspended by us just recently, Riley J's, so it seems they've moved on to a new location. At one point, the licensee did come out from behind the bar and engage Investigator Monroe in a conversation where he asked him if he was working for the State Liquor Authority. Investigator Monroe felt that because he was alone and You know, he was taking pictures and he was one of the only people wearing a mask in the entire place. That's why the licensee probably came over and questioned him. This premises is operating in violation of the executive orders. We've got no social distancing being observed. And based on that, it's a danger to the health, welfare, and safety of the public, and Council's office is requesting an immediate summary order of suspension.
Thank you, Jamie. One point for the record, the members have pictures of the outside scene where the picnic tables are and the people are congregating and jammed together. But I believe the last picture in the stack is the gazebo.
Yes.
Where you can also see patrons standing and drinking and talking to each other as if it was the summer of 2019. Thank you.
All right, with that, Commissioner Fan, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Ford, do you have any questions?
Yes, Jamie, there was some noise when you said when they were licensed. When did you say that was?
This particular license was issued August 4th, 2011. There are other licenses associated with this one. It's on a marina. There's a vessel license and there's a Class A license also associated with this address.
Okay.
But no violations were observed on the vessel and no violations were observed at the convenience area. So it's just this one particular area that's problematic.
Okay, and so they're seasonal, so they're about to close anyways. Would that be correct? Correct assumption?
November 30th of 2020, the license expires.
Okay. The capacity was 50 according to your application. The investigator reported that he counted 60 people there. Since it's an outdoor bar, does the 50% capacity restriction still apply?
Let me, if I may.
Yeah.
Yes.
The answer is no. Outside, what matters is whether the tables are adequately spaced apart and the other outside dining social distancing requirements are being met. Inside, the 50% rule would apply.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a 50% issue here, it's a social distancing issue. But the 60-person total gives you a sense of what was anticipated for this space and what they happened upon on that particular day.
And they will. So if their capacity is 50, they will over one way or the other, basically.
Correct.
Right. Yes. Okay. All right. I don't have any other questions. Thank you, Jamie.
Chairman Bradley, any questions?
No questions.
All right, with that, I'll call for the vote of the full board. First, Commissioner Fan.
Based on the evidence presented by Council Gallagher, it's clear that this location is an imminent threat to public health, safety, and welfare, and I vote to summarily suspend this license.
Commissioner Ford.
I vote to summarily suspend as well. I don't remember, Counselor, did you say that the investigator was not required to buy food?
Correct, he was not.
Oh,
And he was
yes,
served a
okay.
beer.
Okay, yeah, all right. Yes, I vote to summarily suspend as well.
Then Chairman Bradley.
I vote to summarily suspend. It's obvious that this place is operating as a college bar. There's no food. Based on the presentation by council, it's clear that this place has become a risk to the public health, safety, and welfare.
Right then, the second item I have is 1334 PP, Suffolk OP 1295695, Denny's Inc.
Good afternoon, Robert Buckley for Council's office. The location that's being referred to the members has a trade name, Pine Grove Inn, located on 1 First Street, East Patchogue, New York. This licensee was brought to the authorities' attention. Was brought to the authorities' attention based on a police referral and also photographs, which I'll get into shortly. And I also have to thank Investigator Stravali and Associate Counsel Amarato for trying to obtain more information about the incident in question and another incident that, again, I'll discuss shortly. The location, Pine Grove Inn, apparently has been at this address for quite some time. It is located on the banks of the Swan River in East Patchogue, New York. It is south of Montauk Highway, which is a major east-west thoroughfare in Suffolk County. And it is a freestanding building. The premises is a German restaurant, only on the ground floor. On the second floor, there's storage and offices. The capacity is about 190 persons. The licensee indicated they would have no use of an outdoor area. There's one bar inside the location. As well, the licensee said it would have DJ, live music, and recorded music. Again, on September 26th, last Saturday of 2020, the Suffolk County Police Department, through the 911 system, started getting calls about 10 o'clock or 10:30 in the morning of that day regarding vehicles in the area. It's a residential neighborhood, other than the Pine Grove Inn appears to be the only commercial establishment in the area. The way someone would get to the Pine Grove Inn would be going south of Montauk Highway, going down Chapel Avenue, and then making a right-hand turn onto First Street. So the residents were complaining about vehicles, reckless driving. They were parked in front of homes, cars revving, engines revving, cars going very quickly. Eventually, marked Suffolk County Police Department patrol cars went to location beginning about 11:25 a.m. again this past Saturday. The licensed sole principal of this license, which was issued October 17, 2016, is a Michael Goberdan. Mr. Goberdan was present at this September 26th event, as well as the police determined there was an event coordinator, Kevin Sucre. And based on the conversations with Mr. Sucre, Mr. Goberdan, it was learned that there was some sort of private event. We've also learned during, again, Mr. Stravali's interviews with the licensee and also another person who was also related to the promoter, that there was apparently some sort of private fundraiser for the location or for Mr. Goberdan, and that there was persons would have to pre-register. So I guess they would have to know how many people are coming, but apparently through social media, et cetera, there was more people who came to this location, and according to Mr. Stravali's conversation with, well, again, someone related to the promoters, many people who coming from Queens or Brooklyn, many members of the Guyanese community came to this location. Apparently, many of them came in vehicles that were sort of modified vehicles, in other words, sports car type vehicles. And so there's some confusion as to whether this was a car show. Apparently people came to this event were also displaying their cars, people looking at each other's cars. But in any event, apparently the problem was that the promoters had to make sure that the people who came were actually pre-registered, and that apparently caused this line of cars to back up several blocks onto Sweezy Street, which is another east-west street below Montauk Highway. In any event, police spoke to Mr. Goberdan and the promoters, telling them that there's just too many people here. People were not social distancing, failing to wear face coverings, and that this event needed to be either lessened or ended due to the problems, the executive order problems of people not social distancing or not wearing face coverings, as well as just the amount of vehicles and people that came to this neighborhood. Apparently, at some point, the gates of the Pine Grove Inn were closed to have further vehicles entering, but the police described hundreds of people in the area on the grounds of the premises. Again, the premise is not licensed for an outdoor area, but photographs and description, the police reports indicated there was an outdoor bar that was had two bartenders with beer taps and liquor bottles and ice and all the things that would be associated with a stand-up bar, as well as there were structures which were described as cabanas in some of the reports. I believe maybe the more appropriate term be pergolas, because they weren't enclosed structures, more so you might see that were open air, just a canopy, but no walls, where people were apparently sitting down, also congregating around. And the photographs do show other tables where people are sitting down. Now, some of these photographs apparently were taken towards the end of the event. Police were there for several hours trying to lessen the amount of people who came to this location, as well as trying to get the vehicles to disperse. At some point, the promoter deferred to Mr. Govardhan as to what should be done. And Mr. Sucre, the promoter, deferred to Mr. Govardhan. Mr. Govardhan is describing as somewhat cooperative, but also, well, actually, the report says made little to no effort to correct any compliance with crowd issues. Apparently, he was spending a lot of time going back and forth to his office, and he was saying that he was taking phone calls from the neighbors who were again, still had problems with this event. And eventually police left. It was several hours into the afternoon where police eventually left. But again, Mr. Stravali was emailing Mr. Govardhan, who has a sort of a different version of events, particularly as to how many people are at this event. But again, the photographs do show that there appear to be persons who were congregating, standing up, standing at the bar, drinking beer. Again, the investigator Stravali, again, spoke to also one of the persons assisting the promoter, said there was only about 40 to 60 people. Again, at least the two reports of the police indicate there were more people than that. And that, again, there would appear to be little or no food being
Mr. Bucky,
presented.
can I interrupt you here? You keep
Absolutely.
saying the police indicate there are more than that. How many do the police indicate were there? Approximately.
They say several hundred. Then later on, 100 people. It was less than 100 people. The police were, I think, again, of the suggestion apparently to the Mr. Govardhan that this event should be ceased. But again, apparently Mr. Govardhan didn't end the event, but rather tried to have attempts to lessen the amount of people who were on the grounds. And apparently nobody was inside the location, but again, all these people were outside. That's the answer I could give to you, Chairman, about how many people. Again, the licensee indicates that there were not several hundred, but again, the police indicate that cars were backed up against several blocks. How many people were how many people actually got out of their vehicles and got into the parking lot, into the grounds? Again, the police indicate that they saw several hundred, and most of them were walking around with cups of beer and not wearing face coverings. So it doesn't seem to be that the police did an actual head count. In fact, I believe Investigator Stravali, I think, found out from the either a sergeant or the police officers that they didn't take photographs at the height of the event, again, because they maybe felt there was invading the privacy of these people, or it just wasn't inappropriate. So apparently most of these photographs were taken towards later on in the afternoon. But still, again, it does show people congregating among these pergolas or cabanas, and at tables with umbrellas. Again, and there was apparently a stop work order that these structures were not supposed to be deployed in the outdoor area. Mr. Govardhan did email Mr. Stravali that he's working on getting permits for these structures. So there was also, as well, an event on September 5th, 2020, that the authority was only notified after we learned of this matter on September 26th, where police went to the location on Saturday, September 5th at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then there was a call for a family gathering who were not social distancing. There appear to be some sort of gathering outside, again, with the same sort of structures. The police do describe that persons were, the temperature was taken, there was hand sanitizers, and eventually they left and they found that there were no violations, even though they did inform the people who were there from the licensee that they should comply with executive orders. Mr. Amarato contacted a resident today, and actually a resident supplied Mr. Amarato a flyer which indicated there apparently was a what they call a soca brunch, not just a family gathering, but so it was some sort of event that was promoted by the licensee. So again, the premises are not permitted to use this outdoor area. They set up a bar. Again, according to the police, there was not, excuse me, not social gathering, not face mask, face covering wearing for the most part. And as I think Mr. Stravali indicated, this was something where there could be a super spreader event where you could have multiple people spreading the coronavirus. So based on all that, the authority, Council's office dismisses the authority for summary order suspension of this premises. It appears then again that Mr. Goberdan knew, in fact, that there's going to be some people coming to this location. The outside didn't take proper steps to make sure the executive orders were being complied with.
Thank you, Bob. I see references in the reports from the police that they witnessed 200 to 300 patrons at the location, not in their cars, at the location. So
Yeah, I saw the same. I just saw the same references.
okay. We have an operator here with no outdoor privileges who set up for a huge event, apparently invited people, had to have some conception of how many would be there, used a promoter, put the music outside in a bar outside. People were walking around and drinking out in the open with open containers. When the police arrived, they were non-cooperative in shutting it down. Why the police didn't arrest anybody or just close it down is beyond me, but that's what happened. And we also have evidence that this operator is willing to have other parties unless the SLA does something about it. So that's the record for the members to consider.
All right, then, with that, Commissioner Fan, do you have any questions?
Mr. Buckley, can you describe that flyer that you have in hand?
Yes, I'm sorry to, Mr. Amarato only acquired it in the last hour or so. It says, save the date, Wendell NYC presents, and Wendell may be someone mentioned in the call that Mr. Stravali made to one of the promoters. I believe that name it sticks in my mind. It says Wendell NYC presents Lime by the Water, Soca Brunch, Food, Drinks, Party, Cabanas, Capacity, Limited, in parentheses, September 5th, 2020. So Soca Brunch, Soca is obviously a music.
Is it a ticketed event? Does it look like they're charging for that event?
I'm sorry, well, I'll answer that in 1 second. Also, I'm sorry, the resident also told Mr. Amarato that apparently people were being bused to this location, and she submitted photographs showing some sort of bus. I don't know offhand. All I have is, again, the police were told it was a family gathering event, and I guess the police had no reason to think that wasn't the case. But the residents indicated that it was a planned event with this flyer. It doesn't say particularly if it was ticketed, but it does say that there was a limited capacity for these cabanas. So perhaps that was the idea that only people who were going to register or apply for this event then would have the ability to use these cabanas or pergolas, these structures again that the licensee has placed on the outside of this location, which apparently the town of Brookhaven does not permit without a construction permit or whatever permit town of Brookhaven requires.
Anything else, Commissioner Fan?
No, I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Ford, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple. Counselor, when did you say they were licensed? I don't think you did.
Yeah, during the course of the day, it was October 17th, 2016, but Mr. Ford, I believe this premises has been there for quite a long time, but under this current licensee, it'll be 4 years this month. The license expired actually September 30th, 2020, last Wednesday, but they are allowed to operate under the provisions of SAPA.
Okay. Any adverse history with them?
There's no adverse history, no other violations, complaints, or referrals to the authority.
Okay.
Apparently they were, it is apparently a legitimate restaurant, but apparently with the, obviously with the pandemic, they have to change their operation. But again, I don't know why they didn't say, frankly, commissioners, why they didn't say they're gonna use an outdoor area. On their website, they show that they have an outdoor area. It's again on the banks of a river. They have a patio. They said you can have wedding receptions, but perhaps, I don't know, I'm not sure if there's a town of Brookhaven prohibition or requirement, some requirements they couldn't comply with to use the outdoor area.
Okay. Was there any food observed being served?
The police say no food is being observed. That on the photos, it does show a table with someone looks like may have some limited food. That person I described to you before, that investigator Stravali spoke to over the phone, said there wasn't the German cuisine that the premises usually serves, but some sort of burgers and chicken fingers, things like that.
Okay.
But again, photographs submitted by the police show they show the bar and the tables. They show the kitchen area. It doesn't seem to be anybody in the kitchen area preparing food. And the person, investigator Stravali, spoke to said, no, there were people ordering food and waitress service, but doesn't seem indicated in the photos, and the report says no food is being observed.
Okay, that's good. One last question. There's a picture of alcohol bottles under the bar. Do you know what that's about?
Not offhand, other than it appears to be a stock bar with beer taps and a wet bar, etc.
I just wondered if that picture was making a point about anything. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, whether or not people were being served liquor drinks, I don't know if, and I don't think the police make reference to that. They just indicate that they saw people wandering around, drinking beer, cups of beer.
Okay, thank you.
There was liquor being served, don't know.
All right, thank you.
Chairman Bradley, any questions?
No questions.
All right, with that, I'll call for the vote of the members. First, Commissioner Fan.
Counsel, I think I need a moment. Can I call you, Gary?
Sure.
All right, so I just ask everyone to mute your lines, please, and we'll take a brief recess. Are we ready to resume? Okay, then, we are back on the record on item 1334 PP after a brief conference with council. I believe Commissioner Fan, I'm back to you for your vote.
May I add something? I'm sorry.
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. There's many discrepancies. One discrepancy also is apparently the promoter on this September 26th date apparently was complaining to the police that he would have to reimburse some of these people who came if the event was ended. But according to the person Mr. Stravali spoke to, he said that nobody had to prepay ahead of time, that people had to pre-register, that they would then pay when they got the location. I'm not quite sure what the fee was, but so there was, again, some discrepancy about what people paid. And also, I believe the guidelines talk about no ticketed or reserved events. So this also may violate the guidelines, even though I think that applies to music, but this is again, a pre-registered event. That's all I have. Just again, another discrepancy.
And let me just add, Tom, I think your mic is open. There are guidelines about advertising and ticketing certain types of events on our website, but those guidelines just illustrate and expand on an executive order that prohibits non-essential gatherings of more than 50 people for an event. Which whether people paid in advance, paid when they got there, clearly was it's not just an accident that all these cars showed up at the same time and that we had 200 to 300 people there. This is a planned event that plainly violated the 50-person limit, in addition to the other types of executive orders that govern the conduct of this licensee on the premises, who's not even permitted to serve outside, but once they've decided to do so, to not have people seated at tables eating and drinking. I don't know whether it was eating. We're not going to rely on that. We're not going to charge that they failed to comply with the eating requirement because we don't have that in the report. But what we have in the report is people walking around and drinking and not adhering to the outdoor service executive order restrictions.
All right, then back to Commissioner Fan.
Based on the evidence presented by council, it's clear that this location is hosting lots of illegal events in violation of the governor's executive orders preventing the spread of COVID-19, and this location an imminent threat to public health, safety, and welfare, and I vote to summarily suspend this license.
All right, Commissioner Ford, your vote.
Based on evidence presented by council, Buckley and Meyerhoff, I see this place, I see what happened here as a threat to the public health, safety, and welfare. So I vote to summarily suspend this license.
And Chairman Bradley, your vote. Chairman Bradley?
I'm going to vote to summarily suspend. The police report indicates that there were multiple, not one, multiple 911 calls regarding a large event at the listed location, vehicles blocking roadways. The police showed up at around 11, found that there were multiple vehicles, dozens of vehicles blocking roadways. The report also indicates that they initially saw between 200 and 300 patrons on the premise and the outdoor surrounding area. And by 2 o'clock, so almost 3 hours later, they had lessened that number to 100, which was still a very large number. Most of the patrons and several of the employees of the place were congregating without masks, and the patrons were walking around the premises with open alcoholic beverages and standing around the bar. So it's obvious that this place was not operating within the executive order guidelines, and based on this activity is a risk to the public health, safety, and welfare.
All right then, Chairman, I have no other items on the calendar. Do you have anything else?
No, I have nothing else.
All right, with
Thank
that,
you.
this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.